I invited Nikil, who was in the fall cohort, and he's going to tell you about his startup, and just to tell us about his experience with what your startup is and your experience with I-Corps going forward. So, floor is all yours.
Sure. So InventXYZ is an educational services company that for high schools and school districts designs maker spaces, which are like hands-on fabrication labs, and provides curriculum and teacher training so that schools can use these spaces effectively. And through I-Corps, we've really sort of solidified who exactly was the right customer and like what their pain points were or like what they felt like they didn't have yet. And that definitely helped a lot. So for us, the overall idea of like what we're offering didn't really change through I-Corps, but we interviewed I think we had 18 superintendents, or no, sorry, six. Yeah, I think it was like 18 superintendents and like 4 teachers that we interviewed during the I-Corps time, and then we continued doing it like till February. Um, and through those interviews, we got to like meet with the districts from different sizes, rural, suburban, urban, and got to really understand like for which districts they require certain type of value. So through I-Corps, like we better understood like what schools invest in, how they plan, and how they discover um, what the other like what options there are if they're trying to design some sort of 21st century service so that students can actually learn 21st century skills. And then we specifically learned within the school districts who was the decision maker and who was facing the pain points. So I guess keep in mind as you continue doing this that like sometimes the person like making the decision of a product or service to buy or not is not necessarily the same person as the one who faces pain points, or maybe you might have multiple people facing different pain points. Yeah, so for through I-Corps we like very much solidified that. And then we also understood that our service, at least initially, makes the most sense for smaller school districts that don't have as many high schools because they don't have as like much economies of scale, or they don't have as many experts, or like they don't have the potential for having as many experts in their district staff to develop their own curriculum. Um, and I think Tomas also mentioned that it would be interesting for you guys, I guess, to hear a little bit about how I went from I-Corps to also like developing my application for the President's Innovation Prize. So I-Corps definitely informed that a lot. The customer interviews helped a lot, and then in developing the business and also developing for President's Innovation Prize, I made sure to focus on like emphasize that we've talked to a lot of customers, and in fact the people that we talked to and interviewed ended up being some of the people that ended up giving us LOIs. Um,
Giving you
so
what?
yeah, as you think, sorry, what was that?
Giving you what?
Letters of intent. Yeah.
And why are those
Um,
important?
what's that? Why is
Why?
that important?
Yeah.
Um, well, I guess it shows that we through interviewing people and slightly tweaking what we were offering, um, found people that wanted our service and product, and we found sort of the market need. Um, so we haven't really used the money from I-Corps yet, um, although we were planning to because I went to 2 conferences in the end of January and early February. But basically, that's what we're going to be using it for several national superintendent and state superintendent conferences, where we can meet with customers beforehand and figure out, again, do the same sort of interviewing process, ask about specific challenges they've had in, like, for example, finding curriculum understanding how to integrate it. And I'm sure like the um, same sort of use case might apply to you guys as well, um, in terms of like going to trade conferences or maybe going and directly meeting with, like in for example, Showcase's case, like meeting with the potential customers of the service and potential users. So if you're doing something B2B, probably one of the most effective ways to use the funding is either going directly to like offices of your customer or potential customers or going to trade shows.
Right. So I want to mention, you probably know that, but Nikil just won the President Innovation Prize, which is, a very prestigious and important one. So great job. There are two other people from I-Corps also won that, and one is Catherine Zizov, who did the apple sensing mechanism to figure out when apples are ripe, and Michael Wong, who developed InstaHub. So the last 3 years. So I guess so I'm not saying that you do a lot this because of I-Corps, but every team that succeeds they're doing a lot of other things at the same time. So I'm assuming you probably did that as well. Do you want to explain a little bit about what the Innovation Prize entails and what you're going to do with that?
Sure. So for graduating seniors, so like that's the key to being eligible. If you're so basically the Innovation Prize is a prize that Penn gives to I guess its top startup in order to sort of fund sort of the first year of expenses. It's a no equity thing. It's just like competitive, and they try to choose the startup that has the highest potential, high social impact, and I guess like a very clear strategy and plan, I think is kind of how they weight it. And basically they give you $100,000 for the company plus $50,000 personal stipend for every graduating senior on the team, up to 4, I think is the number. And so what I personally am using that for is 2 things, or I guess technically 3 things. But for my company, like 2 of the key aspects is understanding what customers want our product and then get like actually selling it to them, and then developing the curriculum itself so that we can actually sell something. So that's what I'm using the I-Corps funding for, which is hiring like employees/contractors to help me develop the curriculum, and then working on a data science application to help us actually identify, by scraping documents on school district websites, which school districts are like at the point where they would be a potential customer. And then with the other part is also like hiring a person from like an architecture firm or a company that sells large scale projects to school districts, so that we can actually get someone with experience selling like $100,000 level items, and actually be able to close sales.
So I have one other question. What I'm interested in finding out, what got you interested in this field altogether?
Okay, so a couple of things. I've been an inventor myself since like middle school, 7th grade, 8th grade. And in fact, in 8th grade, I played xylophone and marimba. And when you play xylophone and marimba, you normally just have like a stick in each hand, right? But that means you can only play 2 notes at a time. So like 60 years ago, someone came up with a technique to play chords by sticking like an extra stick over in the pinky and then like doing some hand gymnastics. Problem is, this can cause tendonitis and other major wrist issues. So when I was first learning this, I exclaimed that, hey, this is the most idiotic thing I've ever seen. Why isn't there just one shaft with 2 heads that you can like change the distance between? And I like, tried to find a mentor and a place where I could build this in my middle school. And that just didn't exist. So like I ended up scouring, like going to random places in Houston, went to like some electronics parts outlet, in some like industrial district. And then finally, I ended up making a prototype of this thing in the garage of one of my neighbors who happened to be a Coast Guard vet and had like a really, really nice workshop. So he like taught me how to drill press and like, figure out what pieces I can put together. So I was just constantly looking for a place like this in high school, and it just didn't exist. But then as I started, like, came out of high school, like 12th grade, and then first couple years of college, I saw that more than 5,000 schools had bought a MakerBot, and a lot of them were just sitting in the libraries. But then another subset of schools were building like $300,000, $800,000 makerspace areas, and then a couple of them had just gone completely dark because the person who was the expert ended up leaving after a couple of years. So the question was, how do you make such an area that would be sustainable even if like the one person leaves? The best way to do that is train everybody at least partially and then support it with a network, right?
Good. So it came out of your own experience, and then you just went through it. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
what happened with the modified marimba? You have that or?
Yeah, so I actually have the prototype is downstairs somewhere, but I do have a patent on it now.
Excellent. Good job.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.